Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
What's going on?
Oh man, not a whole lot. Been a great time just roundtabling this new topic as we close out investing in you, and we're opening up addition by subtraction.
Yeah, it was your idea, your title, and I thought it was good. It's actually interesting. We talk a lot about making forward motion in our jobs and in our careers, and if we're entrepreneurs in our businesses, and we mostly think of addition by addition, but addition by subtraction is a really great point, that there are things that are in our way that if we get rid of them, then we are making a net positive add to our business and career. So kudos to you for that, and I'm excited for the topic.
Yeah, it was just something that it seemed to be kind of the next step after we've been discussing. And so I know this first one, we're not really sure how well of a series maybe we have or maybe we don't have. So just hold with us and just allow us to kind of talk it out with you guys. But the first one that we have on our list is discontentment. And for me, discontentment, has a pretty significant meaning, because of my past. And there was a long period of time where I sat and I enjoyed contentment and I didn't move or anything like that. And a lot of times in teams, especially large teams, you can have little pods of individuals who are just comfortable with the status quo, don't want change, good or bad, even if it's positive change. I'm going to make your life easier. Nope. I really enjoy my routine, so don't mess with my routine. And so discontentment for me has got to go.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I guess discontentment is something that's part of my DNA. It's kind of my personality profile that, I'm never satisfied. And I enjoy the thrill of, kind of discovering, whenever I discover a new idea, I tend to vet the idea out. So my wife and I have this family language called fleshing it out. What that means is that, I recognize that I'm an idea person, and so I generate a lot of ideas. And so I have permission in my family to flesh ideas out and not to commit to them, which is really useful. And she fleshes ideas out too. So that's been a really useful practice, actually, of recognizing the validity and almost the enjoyment of having the idea, but then saying, you know what, we have to prioritize. We only have so much time, so much money, and so we're going to go ahead and pass on idea XYZ. So we flesh things out. But I do have a lot of ideas, and it's almost like this bottomless well. I mean, any given situation, I'm going to have ideas, basically. And so there's kind of a natural discontentment there, I guess, because I'm always thinking about the next thing. But I also have to, the problem with discontentment, and always thinking about the next thing, is that we have to be super faithful with some, everyday things as well, or else, if we're not faithful with the basics of the business because we're chasing after the new thing, then we could run into a problem where we're not accomplishing things and we're not moving forward because of good execution. And so if something isn't, if something doesn't sort of like pop and sizzle and really work the first time, then you can be in a situation where you've got a lot of little things that are undone. And so discontentment can be a problem, actually. And I think an idea person, and I know we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast or watch it, and they could run into this problem a lot. And so I think what we have to do is we have to make sure that we use the energy, the positive side of it, and say, okay, I've got this idea, that's stirring up in me, but I have permission to flesh that out and not feel like I'm not succeeding because I'm not chasing every idea that I have. Gary Vee talks a lot about how ideas are crap. Everybody's got them. Execution is what matters, and doing things is what matters. And I do think that's true. And he has a little different language for that. But I think the principle is really true. So I think it's a good way to start this addition by subtraction. If we can be content with operating at a high level of excellence on a few things instead of sort of like, always being discontent that we're not doing enough or that we don't have enough or whatever it may be. I think we'll be more successful if we're good operators on a few great things instead of chasing after things that are the latest flights of fantasy.
Yeah, John Maxwell has a great kind of analogy that he uses. I don't remember which book it's in. In my mind, the book is Today Matters, but I mean that's one of his top books. But his analogy is if I'm already an 8.5 at a task, and I'm trying the effort and the energy to move that 8.5 to a 9, I could put that same effort and energy on an area of my life where I'm a 3 and get that area to a 6. And now I'm an overall better person, or my company's better, or my work ethic's better, my eating habits are better, whatever it is. And I've made much more drastic steps in this area because I chose to be content at an 8.5, because maybe my max I'll ever reach and my maximum capacity is like an 8.6, and so can you just be content with 8.5 is where you are? So let's raise the bar in other areas of our life.
It's really good.
So.
Yep, that's positive for sure. The next one is apathy, which means that we don't have passion, emotion, excitement. How can we generate passion and emotion and excitement in our business and in our careers? I think I'll take that first because I actually have a natural energy, and I know I'm pretty subdued on the podcast for the most part because I feel like I'm broadcasting, so I can't be just, I'm really not in the mode to present something as part of it, actually. If I were presenting, I probably would come out of my shell a lot more in terms of presentation style. But I will say that I have a kind of a natural, I even was an evangelist I was a technology evangelist at one of my jobs. So I kind of have that excitement. I really believe in things very, very deeply. So I don't know how you generate that if you don't have that, to be honest. I don't know. I'm always interested in what I do. So I don't really know how people are apathetic and they're not passionate about work. But it's true on this list. It's something that people better figure out, because if you come across in your career or in your business as, kind of bland and not very emotional and not excited, then you're not selling your product, you're not selling yourself, and you better find something that gets you excited. And, that may be a thought or a meditation or even a prayer exercise to say, what is it about this product or this company that I'm really proud of? And dig a little bit and find a why. I think if you do, and I know you're really good about this, but if you find a why and find a purpose, I think you'll have the ability to overcome apathy. And and the only other thing I will say is that even with me, although I have kind of a natural excitement about work and business and everything, I will say that I remember a company when I worked at a cybersecurity company more than 15 years ago. I would quarterly get kind of burned out. So I think if you're facing apathy and you're not passionate, you're not emotional about it, and you're not excited about it, deal with the fact that you might be a little bit burned out. So you might need a break. So this is why in the believer world, the Christian world and the Catholic world, and actually in the Jewish faith as well, and I'm not sure about the Muslim faith, but a lot of people take a day off a week. So if you're not taking a day off, no wonder you don't have any passion. So get some rest. Make sure that there's not sort of like an exhaustion reason that you don't have passion. So anyway, that's probably too much on my side.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Passion comes with, for me, from my perspective, is a vision. And so when I'm going to work, and I have a vision of what the day is going to bring me, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to work my 9 to 5, and I'm going to take that money and I'm going to go on vacation. I have a vision, I have a passion for why I'm there, even if it's misplaced, and that, I'm not really there for my job, not really there for the customers. I'm there for the paycheck. I still have a passion, and that's okay. And really the job is as employers or as management or leadership, our job is, if we see this in a team member, is to help them find that, right? Hey, what's going on? Are you overworked? Let's help identify that. Because, a lot of times, and from my perspective, whenever I was severely apathetic several years ago, I had no idea. It wasn't a self-assessment that I knew about. I felt like I was working hard. I felt like I was doing this, but, I just wasn't going anywhere, but it was when there was an outside perspective that came in to show me or have a conversation with me, that allowed me the opportunity to attach onto a new vision of, I don't have to be here, or this, I am more than this, something else that allowed me to snap out of that apathetic, in my mind, an apathetic spirit, just like you were, if you were frustrated and you're just frustrated all day long and you just feel this kind of hovering around you, sometimes there's an apathetic that just kind of hovers around you. You just got to have it pointed out and help, and somebody's got to reach down and snag you out of it. And I know I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. But having passion and emotion and excitement at work, while you're at work, for work, is so important. And even if it's not directly related to, I love my job, I can't get enough, then there needs to be something attached to it,
I will say there's another condition that you can run into that can create apathy, because I experienced this in the recent past. And that's because I had management over me that suppressed me. And I've also had management that was pretty toxic before, and it was a little while before. So I'm talking about two different instances right now. The first one was they kind of suppressed me and they didn't listen to me, and they kind of didn't let me have a lot of latitude to accomplish things. So I felt very suppressed. And then years before that, I had an actual toxic manager. Even then, I wasn't very apathetic, because I really liked that company and I liked their product. But there may have been traces of that, or it showed up as apathy maybe at times, when I was just being pretty badly bullied several years ago. But yeah, the more recent case was, there was some apathy, beast mode, when I felt like I wasn't heard. And we've talked about feedback a lot, and I don't apologize for that, because feedback is really the oxygen for a lot of people, and it is for me. If I feel that you hear me, you got me. And they do say that even in sales, actually, that if the customer feels heard, they're 70% more likely to buy. It's incredible, just listening and giving feedback like that to the customer that you are listening. But anyway, that's one last thing from Howie's side on apathy, that I think you can have a situation where you have a toxic work environment, or you have just a very suppressed, and you guys can run with that to wherever your brain needs to go, because suppress isn't the only thing that can happen at work. But there are conditions that I think Beastmode and I would be very sympathetic, that we know you guys are running into some stuff. I get it, right? How do we still bring that A game? I think, first of all, the only thing I want to say, it felt like I was moving on, didn't it? Now here I am. One more thing. But I think I really want to make sure we give ourselves a little bit of grace, because listen, that boss is sitting on you, or being a pain, and I hope not. I hope there's not very much bullying going on out there, but I know some of it does happen. But just suppressing you, or not listening, or you don't feel well thought of or appreciated, all the different things that can happen to you guys in workplaces. And I want us to talk about those things, by the way, for you guys in the future, for sure. I want to talk about workplace conditions with you guys, creating a good workplace climate, and then also navigating workplace climate, whether it's good or bad. So we'll talk about that maybe soon. But those can create apathetic moments too. But how do we dig deeper than that? How do we dig deeper than those conditions? And I think we've given you guys some ideas, but I just want to acknowledge right away that we are sympathetic to the fact that some of those things do happen in the workplace. and that can be very difficult to have the excitement. But we've given you a few ideas. Anything else, Beastmode, on the kind of producing that
Yeah.
passion or that emotion?
Yeah, as you were talking, I just had kind of a memory or recollection for me. And I remember being apathetic over fear of failure. And so
Mm,
I would increase my workload or my busy workload so that I was at a maximum capacity, but my capacity to go up was stuck because of it. And it's because I didn't want to go up at this point in time. I mean, this was a decade ago almost, but I didn't want to go up because I was fearing of what that would take from me, what it would take from my family. Would I be would it be something that I wanted, or would it be something that I would struggle with? And so I had this kind of apathetic attitude on the inside, even though on the outside it looked like I was slam busy, and it was a facade to keep me from having to potentially fail or grow. So
that's good. Sometimes we talk on this podcast about we're not really an evangelistic podcast, but we drop little scripture here and there for you guys. It's actually surprising how business aimed the scripture can be at times, biblical scripture. One of the ones that is really interesting is when you look at what Moses said to Joshua before he went into the promised land, 2,000 years ago, or probably 3,000 years ago. He talked about not being afraid. He talked about, you're going to get every piece of land that you put your foot on, kind of thing. And so I think if we sometimes, create that internal self-talk, and we say, you know what, I'm going to go into the land, and I'm not going to be, I'm going to face that job or face that growth or face that whatever it is. And I'm going to, trust that when I step into that land, that it's mine, and giving ourselves that permission. I just had that inspiration actually, because I'm telling myself, you want to know where it's coming from. I'll tell you right now. There's roles. I'm currently out of work, and there's roles that I'm currently looking at, and I'm saying, gosh, I have no experience with that technology. I'm kind of interested in it, but I have no experience with it. And what's that going to look like? And they just had a riff. One of them that I talked to today, they just had a riff. So I mean, that's scary because I just got riffed myself, and now they're going to build back when they just riffed people. I'm just like, oh, that feels weird to me. But again, I need to have that Moses to Joshua moment with my own heart and say, don't be afraid, and go into the land and take the first step, and you're going to get whatever piece of land you put your foot on. Because Beast Mode, you and I both know, if we go into that job, we're going to assess the situation, and we're going to make a plan, and then we're going to go A, B, C through the plan, right? But of course, the unknown before you walk into something. So I'm just kind of spitballing based on what you said about your own career 10 years ago, is that it created apathy because you're like, I'm afraid of failure. And I think it's not just guys. Guys have that pretty bad sometimes, but I'm sure the ladies have that. And I think sometimes I've seen a few LinkedIn leadership ladies talk about imposter syndrome, but even that I wouldn't say is a lady phenomenon. I think that's everybody. I think we all feel that. So I think whatever gender you are, you're going to have these types of fears that, and fear that will cause kind of an apathy at times.
yeah, and I think it does. It leads right into our next bullet that we were going to talk about, and it's complacency. And so just kind of a formalized definition is it's neglecting potential risk or opportunities out of a false sense of security. And a lot of times we can get stuck in a comfortability. I know that's a big thing that plagues the Western world is, I want my schedule, I want my routine, I want, once I get it all finagled, and I'm comfortable with it, don't touch it, let me just cash my check, give me my annual raise, and we're just going to be on our way. And that complacency can be a super Debbie Downer on an organization, on a team, and not to mention an individual. Somebody can be trapped, because I know I was. I mean, all these speak to me, personally, but I mean, I was complacent for so long, and I still have to, remind myself and call myself out and remind myself that, I can do so much more. Even now, just, I have no
Yeah, you
idea
can.
untapped potential is. And so, but I consistently have that, that fear, or, there's that risk. And so it's like, do I want to stay here, or do I want to see what a new CRM looks like, or whatever,
I
as
love it.
about that in prep earlier. So
I love it. Yeah, Beastmode is talking about, the CRM, getting a CRM and all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, and I think, I don't have. I'm probably like on the spectrum of like a workaholic for the most part, I would say, and that sounds really self bragging or whatever, but it is a thing. I like to work, and it's kind of my hobby, but my dad probably took it too far with his attitude. At some point, it was probably a true workaholic. I doubt I'm to that point, because it's more that I'm aware of it. So I don't have a lot of complacency necessarily. But I think in my case, the complacency is there. I think there's inactive and there's active. I think the active complacency is that I'm aware of a risk, um, or an opportunity, but I, for some reason, have this false sense of security, or I fail to recognize the real potential, or whatever. It's not landing with me enough for it. So that might be active. And then I think, and maybe there's shades here, I don't know. So I'm just going to spitball it for you, in my own, terrible, stupid way here. But I think there's also inactive, where like I probably have some risks around me right now, or some opportunities that are unstudied, that are unanalyzed, unexamined, right? What was it Socrates said? The unexamined life is not worth
yeah,
living. Somewhere, yeah. And so I probably have areas of my life that are unexamined, and so I maybe have some complacency because I'm unaware. I might be unaware, and I think that that's really good if I can have, again, and I you don't have to necessarily pray. I think it's probably be my way of doing it. But strong meditation, or where you can sit down and say, ask yourself, what are some things that could potentially be opportunities I'm not capitalizing on, right? And then the not fun one is, what are some risks that maybe I'm not seeing right now? I'll give you a great example. You know what people avoid in the home situation a lot? People avoid backups. I'm not kidding. And I think I've told you guys before that me not backing up my family photos cost me, I want to say $1,400 in about 2 or 3 weeks of work. And to this day, I have messed up file names and file properties where I have the picture, but I don't know when it was taken. Okay. It cost me a lot of money and a lot of hassle to get to that partial solution. So now I have, you guys are gonna laugh. I kid you not. I pay for 2 backup. I pay for iDrive, which has like 3.7 terabytes of information. You're like, how do you have that much? Well, hey, you've been married for 22 years and you have 2 kids. You can generate a lot of video. And then I back them up to Amazon as well, which is about $160 a year, I think. I just did that one a little while ago. And I have some backed up to Google Photos too. So anyway, I'm over the top. But again, I got burned, and so we can have complacency because you're not aware of a risk, or because you're avoiding dealing with a risk. Maybe sometimes people don't have a budget and they don't want to establish a budget because they don't want to deal with the fact that they're short every month, right? When if you just wrote it down, at least you could be aware that you're short. Like, hey, I'm
yeah,
usually short $350 every month, right? And I'm like, okay, well, if I knew I was exactly $350, or if it teeters between $300 and $400 a month, you can DoorDash that. My wife, actually, during this downtime right now, my wife and kids are doing a little bit of DoorDashing, and we're generating easily $100 a week in DoorDash. I think she skipped last week, but we've been generating 100 or more a week, actually, which covers most of our groceries, if not all of them. So anyway, if you're, by me being aware that I'm short by $300 or $400 a month, I can fix that, right? There's little things that you can do, or not backing up your photos, which could be the most heartbreaking thing that you would ever encounter. outside of really losing someone. Of course, that's worse. But I mean, losing all your family memories is absolute tragedy. People avoid that kind of thing, right? So how many people in their businesses are avoiding something, right? Like Susan is way under. Okay, you want to hear a really bad example, and I'll flip it to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to anonymize this for obvious reasons. There's a company I'm aware of right now that is underpaying their inside sales reps by 30 to 40%. And let's put it this way. I've told them that in this case, and I believe they will lose both reps next year. And they're a very small shop, and they can't lose 2 reps. They can't. And the product is so highly technical that it would take forever to ramp someone up. So, but this business is kind of, again, to your bullet point here, they're complacent. They have a false sense of security. So I think we need to just make a list occasionally of what are my opportunities I'm not capitalizing on, and what are my risks that I'm not dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember who said it, but it's kind of like, what risk would you take if you knew that you couldn't fail? And
That's good.
One of those that just kind of sparks, and it's
right.
For me, what would you do if you had unlimited time? Work on a CRM, or
I love it.
Whatever.
I swear I'm going to set one up for you.
Yeah, whatever it is, whatever that item is, that's something that I'm complacent because I've placed the fear over the possible move of success, and so I need to just step over in that area, whatever it is. And sometimes it's learning a new task. Sometimes it's taking on a new role. It can be super personal, like Howie was talking about I'm complacent and having to do this task of backing up my stuff just because it's not a top priority. I got lots of things to do. I'm man of the house, and I'm this, that, and other. And then all of a sudden, here it comes. And so whatever those are, and then we just, as me and Howie talked about earlier, we just take an atomic step, take a little step over in that area. You don't have to sit there and quit your job and go do that task, but just move the needle a little bit, and then just receive that feedback.
Since we talked about that, I don't know if it's exactly this podcast. You'd be surprised how much this podcast, by the way, helps us being able to flesh, honestly, focusing on things. But I've been doing an atomic habit that, per our recent conversation, for 3 or 4 weeks with my weightlifting, and I'm just adding 1 rep. It's actually getting hard, by the way, because I'm not growing as fast as my 1 rep is. It's stretching me a little too hard, but I'm definitely growing in my number of reps that I can handle at my certain weight limit. And when I hit a certain threshold, I'm going to just increase my weight and drop my reps. But it's actually that idea, that atomic habit idea, has really been having a personal impact on me.
Yeah.
Off topic, I threw you off there. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think we're just. What do you want to do? We're at kind of that point in time.
Are we at the point? I'm fine if we trim it here. I am hungry, frankly. We don't mind being personal with you guys on this podcast. Hey, by the way, we're getting a little bit of traction, so thank you for that. I think we'll move Addition by Subtraction into a 2-week or a 3-week series as well. I think this is a pretty good stopping point. But yeah, thanks for listening, by the way, and we'd love to have you share this as well with somebody. I think we get pretty real with this, and it's highly practical stuff. I actually don't know of another podcast that kind of gets into business and career in these topics and does a teardown back and forth. I don't know of another one. There probably is. There's probably 100 of them. But I don't know of any more. So, I think if people want to subscribe and listen, then chances are from time to time we're going to pull out a couple things that you should be thinking about for your business or career.
Yeah, and what, we'd love those comments, that feedback from you guys. If there's a topic that you've just been, you've been with us since the beginning for 6 months now, 7 months, and you're just waiting for a topic, you don't have to wait any longer. You can comment on one of these videos. I know that our capacity is increasing as we're going to Amazon and to Audible as well. And so we just thank you all for tuning in, subscribing, liking, following. And we look forward to having this conversation with you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All righty.
See you
Talk soon.
next time. Thanks.